At the military academy admission physical examination site, the classmates were still grinning at the tattoos on their bodies of Pleasant Goat, Calabash Brothers, and the school Belle's face. It wasn't until they started trying to scrub off the tattoos and found that they couldn't be removed no matter what that they began to panic and question the class monitor. Class monitor, didn't you say the tattoo from the school Belle's family could be removed? Why can't I get mine off no matter what? I only applied to military academies for the college entrance examination. If I fail the physical because of this tattoo, my parents will beat me to death. In my previous life, the whole class unanimously decided to apply to military academies and serve the country after graduation. Lin Qingqing, the class beauty who was the only one to fail the entrance exam, suddenly said she wanted the whole class to get tattoos together to commemorate the 3 years we had spent as classmates. I knew tattoos would cause us to fail the medical examination, so I tried my best to persuade everyone otherwise, but I was mocked by my boyfriend, Song Li, who was also our class monitor. Qingqing's tattoo ink is all washable. You're only trying to stop everyone from making a keepsake because you're jealous that Qingqing is more popular than you. The whole class also said I didn't cherish everyone's friendship and joined together to spread rumors online that I was the school's public bus. Later, the students were admitted to military academies and had bright futures ahead of them, but after her scheme failed, the school Belle hired 3 thugs covered in tattoos, dragged me to an abandoned factory in the suburbs, raped and killed me, and then posted the video online. My parents wept every day, determined to go and demand justice for me, but Song Li had the brakes cut, causing the car to plunge off a cliff, killing them both. Afterward, Song Li took her classmates to hold a victory party in my family's villa. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the time when the school beauty gathered everyone to go to her house for tattoos. This time, I decided to stand by and watch coldly as they ruined their own futures together. My soul had remained beside Song Li all along, watching him hold Lin Qingqing in his arms as they raised their glasses to celebrate. Now that Qingqing has become an internet celebrity, the deaths of Wen Ning's whole family weren't in vain. Too bad we never got to get matching tattoos back then. That bitch Wen Ning ruined the most beautiful memory of our youth. The classmates present all chimed in, picking up darts and hurling them at my photo. From now on, every year on Wen Ning's death anniversary, we'll get together to witness our friendship lasting forever. Looking at their smug expressions, I wished I could turn into a vengeful ghost and personally teach these beasts a lesson. Just as I was about to rush over, a familiar voice rang in my ears. Wen Ning, it's no use trying to stop me. I'm getting this tattoo today. No matter what, I'm not only going to get a tattoo, I'm going to have Qingqing's avatar tattooed on my chest too. The more jealous you are, the more I'll get tattooed. I'll piss you off, you jealous hag. Song Li shoved me aside and led a group of people to barge into the tattoo shop. I stood there dumbly, staring at the familiar scene and crowd, and suddenly realized I had been reborn. Song Li, who had just been scolding me, saw me standing there motionless and asked impatiently, "What are you standing there for? Are you up to some bad idea again?" Looking at Song Li and those classmates who treated me with cold indifference, I realized I had returned to the time when Lin Qingqing led the whole class to get tattoos. Suppressing the fury boiling inside me, I said in the most restrained tone, "I think you should have it painted on your chest. That would show how much you value it, but I have to go home, so I won't stay and keep you company." Hearing this, Lin Qingqing hooked her arm through mine and said with a smile, "Wen Ning, you stay too and join us. If you're the only one who doesn't get one, it'll make you seem too out of place." I quietly pulled my hand away and refused with a cold laugh. I've had extremely sensitive skin since I was a child. A tattoo could land me in the hospital at best, or cost me a limb at worst. I'm not playing along with you. Seeing Lin Qingqing looking embarrassed after what I said, a classmate immediately stepped forward to defend her. Wen Ning is just jealous that Qingqing is so popular and can't stand seeing us get close to her. Just looking at her pretending to be a good girl all the time makes me want to puke. We got tattoos to commemorate our youth, but she's different. She's been looking miserable from start to finish. She's really disgusting. She can't be allowed to leave. She definitely has bad intentions. Is she planning to call the teacher over? Hearing that, I sneered inwardly. In my previous life, it was at this exact time that I called the homeroom teacher and asked him to come over and stop her. To buy time, I even braved Jiangqing's hottest son of the year, all on my own, using both force and persuasion, with all the patience I could muster. Only then did I stop them at the entrance of the tattoo shop, because I knew that my classmates came from poor families, and after 12 years of hard study, it was even harder for them. Otherwise, even if they had a heartfelt desire to serve the country, they still wouldn't have all applied together to military academies where tuition was completely waived, and the so-called tattoo on Lin Qingqing's body was simply impossible to remove. It was enough to ruin all of my classmates' dreams of applying to military academies. In the end, all of my good intentions were treated as utterly ungrateful ingratitude. In my previous life, after I was persecuted to death, they also edited the video of me trying to stop everyone into evidence that I had bullied Lin Qingqing, making Lin Qingqing gain both fame and fortune and instantly become an internet celebrity. Pulling my thoughts back, I watched the crowd in front of me eagerly rushing to ruin their own futures, and I quickly moved a stool over to sit aside. There was only a bag of sunflower seeds and peanuts missing from my hands. No, everyone was just doing it for our classmate friendship, I understand, since they insist on courting death. I'll just grant their wish. Seeing how sensible I was being, Lin Qingqing looked smug and waved grandly at the crowd, saying generously, "Today I've specially invited a few masters here. Whatever design you want tattooed, they can do it, and everything is on discount." The classmates immediately burst into giggles. Qingqing is still beautiful and kind-hearted. She really went to a lot of trouble for this memorial event. I'm getting a pleasant goat tattoo. This kind of unexpected cuteness will definitely turn heads 100% of the time. I'm getting the Calabash brothers, from Big Brother Calabash to Seventh Brother Calabash. I want them all. I'll be the Calabash grandpa. I watched them choose their designs and styles with a smile. This time, without my obstruction, the tattooing went unusually smoothly. By the time the homeroom teacher hurried over, they had already all finished getting their tattoos. "Two bastards, who told you to get tattoos?" Faced with the homeroom teacher's fury, Song Li, however, didn't care at all. He showed the completed tattoo of Lin Qingqing's face on his chest to the homeroom teacher and said with a sly grin, "Teacher's son, look, pretty cool, right?" The classmates were not to be outdone, all scrambling to show off the tattoo designs on their bodies. The homeroom teacher's vision went dark, and she almost fainted. Pointing at them in fury, she cursed, "You bunch of idiots, military academies do not accept students with tattoos. You're ruining your own futures." The students exchanged glances and all burst into laughter. "Teacher's son, don't listen to Wen Ning's nonsense. She's just jealous of Lin Qingqing and spreading rumors." "Exactly, teacher's son, how could we possibly forget something you reminded us of so many times? Don't worry, these tattoos can be removed and won't affect tomorrow's physical examination. My family has already borrowed money from every relative and friend just to send me to school. We don't even have money left at home to pay for me to retake the year. How could I possibly joke about my own future? My great-grandfather has already informed his old wartime comrades, and they're preparing to send me off to school together. Our whole family is hoping I'll make something of myself." Lin Qingqing quickly stepped forward, took the homeroom teacher's arm, and said with feigned sincerity, "Teacher's son, all the students are adults now. They wouldn't joke around with their own future." After hearing their solemn assurances, the homeroom teacher finally let out a reluctant sigh of relief. I sneered inwardly. I believed the other students definitely wouldn't want to joke about their own future, but that might not necessarily be true for you, Lin Qingqing. Now that the die was cast, I just waited to watch the show and saw no need to keep playing the do-gooder. After the homeroom teacher was hustled away by everyone talking over one another, I also got up and prepared to leave, but Song Li grabbed me and said, "Wen Ning, settle everyone's tattoo fees before you leave." I was so angry I almost laughed. "On what grounds?" My attitude made Song Li freeze for a moment. He said with complete confidence, "You brought teacher's son over and ruined everyone's mood. Shouldn't you make up for it? Besides, whenever the whole class got together before, wasn't it always you who paid? Could it be that you were only seeking fame and reputation before?" Hearing this, I really wanted to slap my former self twice. In the past, I chased after Song Li for a full 3 years, knowing his family was poor. I cried and threw tantrums until I forced my parents to subsidize his schooling and even covered his living expenses. I thought Song Li would be grateful, but instead he only got worse. Every time the class had a group meal, he made me pay, calling it a way for me to build good relationships with my classmates, all just for that tiny bit of satisfaction I got when, at every bill payment, my classmates would tease me and call me Song's wife. But later I realized they only saw me as a sucker, a cash machine. Seeing that I said nothing, Song Li said impatiently, "Wen Ning, you're not going to be this stingy, are you? How much can the whole class possibly spend?" "At most, just around 10,000 yuan." Hearing that I didn't want to pay the bill, someone started to get anxious. "Wen Ning, can't you learn from Qingqing? She puts so much effort into preparing this event. Hired a tattoo master. and was even willing to offer a discount. Now she's just asking you to spend a little money. What's the big deal? If you don't pay, then the next time you and Jiangli break up, we won't help you make up anymore. Exactly, it's just a small matter, yet you're throwing a tantrum. I don't know what Songli ever saw in you. They were making it clear, both openly and covertly, that if I didn't pay, Songli would break up with me. In my previous life, this trick had always worked like a charm, usually at a time like this, no matter how wronged or upset I felt, I would obediently go pay the money. It's just that this time, it won't work anymore, I said lightly. Sorry, my money doesn't fall from the sky either. We're all adults here. Surely you can't even afford this little bit of money, right? After saying that, I ignored the ugly expressions on everyone's faces and turned to leave. Behind me, Songli shouted, "Wen Ning, if you dare leave, I'll really break up with you." 3. I rolled my eyes hard and got away from that disgusting place, taking a taxi straight home. Just as I reached the front door, I saw my parents looking flustered and about to head out. Seeing that both my parents were alive and well, tears instantly streamed down my face. When my mother saw me, she rushed over and held me tightly in her arms. "Ning, it's such a relief that you're still alive. It's all because Mom and Dad failed to protect you in our last life." I realized that Mom and Dad had also been reborn, and I couldn't help but burst into heart-wrenching tears. "It's all my fault. I insisted on being a do-gooder and ended up hurting you. It's all my fault. It's okay now, Ning, you can't be blamed for this. It's those ungrateful ingrates' fault. Dad won't let those things happen again." Dad held Mom and me in his arms, trying his best to comfort us. After the three of us cried our eyes out for a while, Mom suggested that we move. Dad and I exchanged a look and said in unison, "No. In my previous life, I saved their futures, and yet they ended up ruining my family and leaving me with nothing. In this life, they've all gotten tattoos, and who knows what outrageous things they might do next. We have to eliminate them completely, and we need to strike first." That night, our family divided up the work and actively prepared response plans. In the class group chat and on the campus forum, Songli and the others were still non-stop showing off their tattoos. To get back at me for not paying for them, they kept tagging me all night long, all kinds of indirect insults and filthy abuse. If I hadn't wanted to watch them reap what they sowed, I would have left the class group chat long ago. Maybe my indifference had provoked Lin Qingqing, because I suddenly received a private message from her. In the photo, her face was pressed against the tattoo on Song Li's chest, like a pair of twins nestling together. "Wen Ning, you think you're worthy of competing with me for a man. By next year, when Song Li repeats a year with me, we'll be able to go to college together. I'm going to keep him wrapped around my finger for the rest of his life." I directly took a screenshot and saved it, too lazy to deal with her. Lin Qingqing didn't know that if my dad hadn't been supporting Song Li, his vampire of a stepfather would have already sent him to work in a factory tightening screws. Repeat a year, keep dreaming. It's just that I wonder whether Lin Qingqing would be willing to accompany Song Li to become a factory girl, or rather, by then, could the anger of the whole class still allow Lin Qingqing to hold out intact until she repeats the year? The next day, the school arranged for all students who had been admitted to institutions related to the public system to undergo a unified physical examination. I hadn't applied to a military academy, but I had applied to a university related to aerospace science and technology, so I also had to undergo a political review and physical examination. When I finished my physical exam, I saw Song Li and our classmates enthusiastically showing their tattoos to passers-by. When they saw me, they even grinned and said sarcastically, "Wen Ning, did you see our group photo? This is our youth, and thankfully, you're not part of it. From now on, we're going to apply to military academy together. Our story will definitely become a legend at school and make us the objects of admiration for the juniors." Unlike some people, lazy and greedy, cold and heartless, no matter how rich they are, they can only be a parasite on society. Faced with their mockery, I showed no reaction. After all, they were about to stop laughing soon. The classmates looked at the Guisho Yang, the Calabash brothers, and the creative avatars tattooed on each other's bodies, still giggling. It was only when they took out bottles of mineral water and tried to wipe off the tattoos on their bodies, only to find that no matter what they did they couldn't be removed, that they began to panic and question their class monitor. Song Li, didn't you say the tattoos from Lin Qingqing's family could be wiped off? Why can't I get mine off at all? I only applied to one college for the Gaokao, a military academy. If I fail the physical because of these tattoos, my parents will beat me to death. When their own futures were on the line, they finally could no longer maintain their friendly attitude, and their tone also turned irritable. Lin Qingqing, say something. What on earth is going on? The physical examination is about to begin. If my great-grandfather finds out I can't get into a military academy because of my tattoo, he'll be mad enough to die. Lin Qingqing, what's going on? Watching how agitated they were, I kept a blank expression, but inside I was laughing my head off, as they wished. They were about to become famous, and soon they would become legends at the school. However, it would go down in the school's history as the stupidest example to remind all the underclassmen and underclasswomen. For tears instantly welled up in Lin Qingqing's eyes as she said anxiously, I don't know what happened either. The tattoo ink at my house is specially made, it should definitely be washable. It was when Ning, I saw her sneak into the shop through the back door yesterday. It must have been her who switched the ink. When Ning, your family is so rich, you can skip college if you want, so why did you have to ruin it for the rest of us so that none of our classmates could get into military school? Seeing Lin Qingqing crying her eyes out, Song Li's heart broke. She hurried to continue speaking on her behalf. Right, I saw when Ning go in through the back door too. I thought she wanted to get tattoos like us, but I didn't expect her to be there to change the chemicals. When Ning, apologize to everyone and pay for everyone to repeat the year. Of course, the necessary compensation for emotional distress definitely has to be included. Let's make it 1 million per person. Hearing Song Li's words, I was so angered by his shamelessness that I laughed. I tried to persuade them, but they wouldn't listen. Now that they've caused a mess, they want me to take the blame for them again. They brought this on themselves. What does it have to do with me? But the students didn't care at all. They all turned to look at me, as if they had found someone to vent their anger on. Realizing something was wrong, I hurriedly tried to leave, but I was surrounded at the center of the crowd by classmates whose eyes were red with anger. When Ning, I know you're jealous that I tattooed Qingqing's face on my chest. If you compensate your classmates and apologize, I can reluctantly tattoo your name on my arm. Looking at Song Li's considerate expression, I glared at him, gritting my teeth. Sorry, I can't take the blame for this. Do you have any evidence? What right do you have to falsely accuse me? However, the enraged classmates heard me still making excuses, and a group of them rushed over and pinned me to the ground. My head slammed hard against the floor, and a warm stream ran down from my forehead, blurring my eyes. I began to argue loudly, trying to calm them down. Song Li doesn't have any evidence at all. The store has surveillance cameras. Go check them. You've all been fooled by Lin Qingqing. But they were completely unmoved, and only punched and kicked me. Venting their rage, a passing classmate wanted to stop them, but was held back by Song Li. We originally applied to military academy together, but her jealousy got the better of her, and she switched out our specially made tattoo ink, so now we can't even go to college. People like this really deserve to die. So cruel and malicious, to be capable of ruining someone's entire life. Hearing this, the people around frowned one after another. They stopped getting involved and instead held up their phones to watch and cheer. Lin Qingqing cried her eyes out in front of the surrounding phone screens. Our years of hard study have all been ruined by her. Who's going to give us justice? She's always been targeting me. But I never expected her to go even further now and hurt everyone in our class. I was condemned by everyone and could only curl up helplessly on the ground. Suddenly, sirens sounded, and the police pushed through the crowd. Mom rushed over, hugging me in distress and glaring fiercely at the classmates. I've already called the police. None of you who dared to hurt my daughter in public will get away. On what grounds do you say my daughter switched your medicinal solution? Officer, I have evidence to prove they're framing us. 5. My mother looked at me again, her eyes even redder. Ning, Mom should have come sooner. You've been wronged. I shook my head and looked at my mother, who wore a terrified expression. My heart filled with guilt. Even though I had already been reborn, the harm those people had caused was still hard to erase. If only I hadn't meddled in other people's business in my last life either. Lin Qingqing looked at my mother, who was full of elegance and wealth, her eyes brimming with greed. She knew my family was rich, but she didn't expect us to be this rich. The Hermes bag that everyone envied and cherished was casually tossed on the floor by my mother. Lin Qingqing stiffened her neck and said through gritted teeth, Auntie, don't just say anything for your own daughter's sake. We all know that when Ning switched the medicine and ruined everyone. As soon as Lin Qingqing finished speaking, the classmates in the room immediately chimed in. Exactly. I saw it too. She's just jealous that we didn't take her with us and is deliberately taking revenge. When Ning, just admit it, This pack of ingrates was scrambling to pin the blame on me. Making me take the fall was the only solution they could think of now, otherwise, they'd have no way to explain it to their families, seeing so many people supporting her. Lin Qingqing's face was full of smugness as she said with a smile, "Auntie, if she swapped the medicine and ruined the futures of so many of us, Wen Ning is going to rot in prison. I think the earlier proposal of giving each classmate 1 million in compensation was still too little. We've studied hard for more than 10 years, at the very least, each person should be given 3 million, even my father, who arrived late, was angered into a laugh by Lin Qingqing's shamelessness. He looked at her with icy eyes. 3 million, you have quite the appetite. 6, under my father's gaze. Lin Qingqing felt guilty and instinctively hid right behind Song Li. Song Li, seeing his benefactor, was also a little intimidated, but feeling Lin Qingqing clutching him, he forced himself to speak. What's wrong with 3 million? Every bag Auntie owns costs hundreds of thousands. Which car or house in your family isn't worth tens of millions? We studied hard for more than 10 years, and when Ning ruined our future, for our retake year, not only do we want the best school, the best teachers, and the best environment, but during this year, everything we eat, stay in, and use must be the best. We also wasted our youth by repeating a year, so isn't it normal to ask for a bit more compensation for emotional distress? We didn't even ask for 10 million, all because of our classmate bond with Wen Ning. I'm really so grateful they didn't take my 10 million classmate bond. I have no damn classmate bond with them. I couldn't wish more for these people to all go to hell. The silence in the air was broken only by my disdainful cold snort. The other classmates naturally knew exactly what my cold snort meant. They also knew that the liquid had nothing to do with me. After all, when I got the tattoo, I never even went inside the shop. As for the back door Lin Qingqing mentioned, there was a huge Tibetan Mastiff behind her house, and it would keep barking non-stop if anyone got near. How could that possibly be? But now they only want to believe that I swapped the medicine myself. They just want things to end in a way that benefits them. Under Song Li's lead, the others echoed in agreement. Exactly, exactly. I'd even think 3 million is too little. After all, time is the hardest thing to buy. We've already been very generous with Wen Ning. Pay up. If they don't pay compensation, then let Wen Ning go to jail. We can't get into college, and neither can Wen Ning. Even the police officers frowned at these people's behavior as the situation grew increasingly chaotic. The school leaders hurried forward. Quiet, what's all the commotion about? The principal walked up to Dad with a fawning expression. Mr. Wen Ning is very outstanding. If this matter isn't handled properly, it will also affect her admission to Astronautics University. How about we just— Dad let out a cold laugh and pointed into the distance. It seems you've forgotten that this building, that building, and even the land beneath your feet all belong to my Wen family. My daughter has been wronged and bullied, and you actually want me to spend money to hush things up. The principal looked troubled, his voice trembling a little, but the classmates all saw Miss Wen. Isn't it wrong for you to use your power to pressure others like this? At that moment, my mother, shielding me, demanded sharply, whatever they say goes. My daughter has been wronged, and you won't listen to a single word of it. The principal swallowed hard and did not dare to speak. 6. The police also wasted no words and handled the matter according to the law. Madam Wen, please present the evidence. Under everyone's gaze, Mom took out the surveillance video. My mom was afraid that everyone wouldn't be able to see clearly, so she asked me to hold my phone and cast the screen onto the school's big display. In the video, Lin Qingqing said to a man covered in tattoos, "When my classmates get here, pick the most expensive medicine for them. Anyway, when Ning's the sucker footing the bill." The tattooed man looked worried. They didn't apply to military academies, then tattoos would disqualify them. That's exactly so they can't get in. I didn't do well on the exam, so why should they get to go to college? They should be forced to repeat the year with me. The last shot was Lin Qingqing's face, twisted with venomous hatred. In my previous life, my parents had already found this video secretly recorded by the store clerk on the way to the police station. They died in a car accident because the brake lines had been cut short by Song Li. Now, my father only needs to use a little means, and soon someone helps him get the video into his hands. Sensing the unfriendly looks from our classmates, Lin Qingqing immediately turned her gaze to me. He suddenly knelt down in front of me. Wen Ning, I know your family has power and influence, so altering the surveillance footage is no problem at all. My store doesn't even have surveillance cameras. You fabricated that video just to make me take the blame for you. Wen Ning, I don't know where I offended you, but you insist on treating me like this. Lin Qingqing cried rivers of tears. bowing her head and kowtowing on the ground. She kept repeating for me to let her go. I looked at her with a cold sneer, without a trace of pity. Your accomplice is already waiting for you at the police station. Why didn't you think they were pathetic when you were taking your classmates to get tattoos? When you framed me, why didn't you think I was pathetic? 7. Besides these things, I have something else I'd like to show everyone. With that, under my mother's cue, I played another video. The main figures in the video were Lin Qingqing and the principal. I can't help you, Dad. If you don't help me, I'll tell everyone I'm your daughter. You just have to listen to me then. That's an entire class. So what if it's a whole class? Song Li can repeat a year with me. We can just switch majors. The others are none of my business. You'd better think this through. If your tigress of a wife finds out you have an illegitimate daughter, will you be kicked out of the house? Everyone was stunned by this video. No one expected the principal, who looked so upright and respectable, to actually have an illegitimate daughter. After seeing this video, the principal immediately went limp on the spot. This was why, although the principal didn't dare offend my dad, he still said it was my fault without even asking. Just now, in my previous life, our family's tragic fate was largely fueled by the two-faced principal. The other school leaders turned red with anger. If this goes on, recruiting students for the school next year will be difficult. A group of people wanted to clear the scene, but my classmates refused to leave, shouting for compensation and money. The school leaders were infuriated by them and pointed at them as they roared, "All your studying has gone into a dog's stomach, and you still have the nerve to ask for compensation. Apologize to classmate Wen Ning right now. Are you waiting for us to call your parents? Or for the school to expel all of you, calling their parents or expelling them?" No matter which one it was, they couldn't bear the consequences. They ruined their own future. Their parents would skin them alive. The people who had just been so defiant all lowered their heads and apologized to me, like wilted cabbage in the field, completely lifeless. Everyone who just had their hands on my daughter's head, stand up. Dad's roar turned the faces of the students in the front row pale with fear. The students behind them were drenched in cold sweat. A minute passed, and still no one moved. Dad's voice grew a little impatient. "Come out. Not coming out on your own. My family's lawyer can sue you until you're bankrupt." Some students with poor mental states had already broken down and were crying. Those who had bullied me also stood out one by one in twos and threes. Seeing so many people, Dad was so angry that he was trembling all over. He raised his hand and was about to hit those who had bullied me. To vent this anger on my behalf, I hurried forward to stop him, and saw the puzzled look in Dad's eyes. "Ningning, what are you doing?" The police were here now. If Dad hit someone, it would leave a bad impression. Even if money could make it go away, people would still gossip about it behind our backs later. In this life, I don't want my parents to suffer even the slightest harm. Dad, didn't they all come forward? Just make them pay compensation. Wouldn't that be enough? Dad, how about each of them pays 3 million as my medical expenses? If it weren't for our classmate bond, daring to hit me would have cost at least 10 million to start with. Dad didn't know what I was thinking, and his eyes immediately reddened. "Ningning, Dad, what do you think of my suggestion?" I acted coquettishly to cut off what Dad was about to say. If he was going to stand up for me, it absolutely couldn't happen in front of the police. "Okay, I'll listen to you. Make them pay." When they heard they had to pay 3 million, how could those people sit still anymore? Wen Ning, we were wrong. Please, just have mercy and let us go. Wen Ning, they knew I wasn't joking, and one by one they were terrified. After my parents and I went to the police station to hand over the evidence, we went straight home. The homeroom teacher also left helplessly after looking at the students slumped on the ground. After all, kind words can't persuade those determined to die. Once all the unrelated people had left, everyone turned to look at Lin Qingqing. It was Lin Qingqing who encouraged us to get tattoos. It was her who deliberately switched the medicine, trying to frame Wen Ning. It was also her who caused us to lose the chance to go to college and end up with a 3 million yuan debt for no reason. The classmates, unable to hold back their anger, had already stepped forward to grab her hair and viciously slap her face. In just a moment, Lin Qingqing's face swelled up horribly. The former darling of the group had now become someone everyone despised. Lin Qingqing was still defending herself at this moment. Those videos were all fake. I just had that kind of thought, and the final potion really could be washed off. I got one myself too, didn't I? Lin Qingqing's best friend also stepped forward. "Nonsense, you're just jealous of Wen Ning. You even told me before that aside from her background, she wasn't as good as you, and that she had nowhere near your strengths. I actually believed your nonsense and went to get a tattoo. You ruined my life." "Lin Qingqing, you bitch, and you even said you were going to seduce Song Li. Why are you acting pitiful now? Someone immediately chimed in agreement. She's not just jealous of Wen Ning, she's jealous of all of us. She's the only one in the whole class who didn't get in, and she even asked us to go to the tattoo shop you and your mistress mom opened together. Who knows how dirty that place is? Even a rabbit will bite when pushed too far. Lin Qingqing shook off the girls holding her and asked loudly, did I force you to get them tattooed? Wasn't it you who insisted on getting the Pleasant Goat and the Calabash brothers tattoos? Now that something's gone wrong, you're blaming me for everything. I used the best ink on you all. One of the students stepped forward and kicked her, then cursed loudly and shouted angrily, best, my ass. I looked into those paints of yours. I found them on Duo, 3-something bucks, same exact logo. A lot of people used them and a few days later their skin started rotting. Best, you say, who are you trying to fool? The other students looked as if they suddenly understood. No wonder the place where I got my tattoo hurts so much. You bitch, so what if you make us unable to go to college? You even caused my skin allergy. I'm going to kill you. A group of people surrounded Lin Qingqing and punched and kicked her. No matter how loud her cries were or how desperately she begged, none of the classmates were moved. Holding her head, Lin Qingqing looked at Song Li, who was smoking beside her. Thinking she had found a lifeline, she rushed over like a madwoman. Ollie, help me, I'm your girlfriend. You said you'd protect me for the rest of your life. If this goes on, they're going to beat me to death. Seeing Lin Qingqing hide behind Song Li, the classmates felt somewhat dissatisfied. Are you sure you want to protect this bitch? Song Li's good friend also spoke up at this moment. Don't I know what your family situation is like? Your dad would never give you the chance to go to school. If it weren't for Wen Ning's father supporting you, you'd already be working in a factory. You finally got one chance to turn your life around, and this bitch ruined it. The moment Song Li thought that he had just gone against his father for a woman like that, he regretted it terribly. Then he thought of the father at home who had made him drop out of school early and come back to work. His breathing immediately grew heavy, and the tightly clenched fists showed his anger at that moment. Lin Qingqing's pleading voice was like a catalyst. Song Li could no longer contain himself and punched Lin Qingqing square on the nose. Blood covered her entire face. Bitch, because the blood splattered onto Lin Qingqing's arm. When a classmate went to help her up, they discovered that the tattoo could actually be rubbed off. This slut can have her own tattoo removed, but ours can't. Lin Qingqing trembled all over in fear, kowtowing and begging for mercy. You're mistaken, mine can't be removed either. Please let me go. Song Li took the lead in covering her mouth and dragged her to another tattoo parlor. They used extremely strong ink on her. It couldn't be washed off. Then they held her down and tattooed patterns all over her body, some indecent patterns, and some unpleasant insulting words. Even if he wanted to wash them off, scars would still be left behind. The tattoo on Lin Qingqing's face was the most disgusting, extremely uncomfortable. Who could possibly stand it with such a humiliating thing on? Not long after, the news reported that a tattooed woman had jumped to her death. The principal's wife also divorced him and made him leave with nothing. Those classmates, I didn't personally punish them, but my family's legal team is not something to mess with. While it probably wasn't that each of them paid 3 million, it would definitely make their already struggling families even worse off. Their parents would also give them a harsh lesson. As for Song Li, afterward, she sent me a long apology message, said that the one he loved most in this life was me, hoped my dad would keep supporting him, said that once he graduated, he would definitely help me manage the family business well. Truly ordinary yet self-confident. I summarized all the transfer records I had previously made to him, then I had him return every last cent to me. This is the money you spent on me while we were dating. Why should I pay it back? Is that so? Did I ever say it was a voluntary gift? Looking at the countless zeros after the number on the court judgment, Song Li stood frozen in place. Even if he were sold, he still couldn't pay back these tens of millions. I want him to work in a factory for the rest of his life, repaying my debt for me. I assigned people to keep watch over him so he wouldn't kill himself. If he refused to eat, we forced food into him. Except for 4 hours of sleep, he spent the rest of the time in the factory tightening screws, earning money to pay me back. Whenever I saw Song Li and his classmates in their moments of breakdown and pain, I just felt delighted. Since you don't want a good life, then go ahead and try the path you chose for yourself. People always have to pay the price for their own actions. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. When the earthquake struck, I was crushed and had to have both legs amputated while trying to save my neighbor's little sister. But not only did the neighbor not say a word of thanks, they even cursed me. If it weren't for her, my daughter would have run out on her own. She meddled in things that weren't her business and ended up making my daughter hit her head. It's only because we haven't settled the score with you that we're letting it go. My father, exhausted from taking care of me, was involved in a car accident. After the surgery, I died from an infection in the hospital bed, and my mother passed away from a brain hemorrhage due to overwhelming grief. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. This time, I chose not to save them. As the house shook violently, I slowly opened my eyes, felt my intact legs, and realized I had been reborn. Furniture around me toppled and swayed with the tremors, and the ceiling plaster had already begun to peel. I scrambled up, grabbed a wooden stool to shield my head, and rushed outside, opening the door to my home. Faint cries could be heard from next door. I glanced at the pile of scattered clutter in front of the opposite door. These were the daily mess left by the neighbor's family, not only affecting the appearance but also crowding the hallway. My parents had negotiated with them several times without success, and were even scolded in return. In the end, even the property management got involved, but it was no use. We could only squeeze past by hugging the wall every day. In my previous life, I spent too much time clearing these things away. By the time I rescued the little girl, the house had already collapsed by more than half. During the process, I shielded her and had my legs crushed by a falling beam. Later, I crawled out, leaving a trail of blood behind me. After going outside, the neighbor was holding their unharmed daughter and not only didn't say a word of thanks, but they didn't even call an ambulance for me. I begged them, but they were afraid I would try to extort them and flatly denied the fact that I had saved someone. You brought this on yourself, and you almost got my daughter killed too. Don't even think about involving our family now. After saying that, the whole family quickly left the scene, and because I missed the optimal treatment time, I could only undergo amputation. My parents were in tears, and their health deteriorated from taking care of me day and night in the hospital. They even got into a car accident, ultimately leaving me with a broken family. Yet the neighbor's family simply moved to another place and continued their happy life. From beginning to end, they showed not a trace of remorse. Thinking of this, I lifted the wooden stool, maneuvered around the pile of clutter, and rushed downstairs without hesitation. In this life, I will save myself too. Just as I dashed out of the hallway, someone grabbed my arm head-on. It was Julie June, the female head of the household next door. Why are you the only one coming out? Where is my daughter? Where is my girl? I moved to an open area, away from the high-voltage power lines. Before answering her, I don't know. Didn't your daughter go to school? Today is Wednesday, and school is not on break. But this family often leaves early and returns late, treating their child's schooling as a minor matter. The couple must have been playing mahjong all night again, so they didn't bother to send their child to school. Julie June exploded upon hearing this. How could you not know whether she went to school or not? Our houses are right next to each other, and the walls are so thin you can hear everything. When the earthquake hit, you only cared about saving yourself and didn't give a damn about my daughter. She's only 5 years old. Do you have any humanity? She stepped forward and shoved me, causing me to stumble and nearly fall. My temper flared up instantly. When the earthquake hit, I was so panicked I just kept running downstairs without even opening my eyes. Was that wrong? If I had died trying to save your daughter, would you have taken full responsibility? The shaking isn't that strong yet, and your daughter is only on the 3rd floor. Instead of wasting time arguing here, you should go up and rescue her yourself. Julie June immediately backed down after I said that. That's not an option. I'm already out here, I sneered, looking at the man behind her. Then let your husband go. At least he's strong and sturdy, much better than a slender, delicate girl like me. Upon hearing that her husband should go up, Julie June immediately stepped in front, reacting even more intensely. No, it's too dangerous inside. Going up now might mean not coming back out. You little brat are deliberately trying to break up our family. How can you be so malicious? At this point, I was genuinely amused. Oh, you can't go, your husband can't go, but I can, so your lives are lives, but mine isn't. This couple is really something. As soon as the earthquake started, they stayed downstairs and didn't even go up 3 floors to look for their own daughter. Now they're here giving me, an outsider, a hard time. It's not like I owe their family anything by nature. She was left speechless by my words, and the onlookers also pointed fingers at them, thinking this couple was way out of line. Julie June's husband tugged at her, signaling her to be quiet, then turned and shot me a fierce glare. I wasn't the least bit afraid and looked down on such a man with contempt. In my previous life, he was just like this, always hiding behind his wife and never stepping up. Now it's the same. He's managed to play the good guy to the hilt. The earthquake lasted for over an hour. Later, the tremors became so intense that everyone had to evacuate to the elementary school's playground for safety. By evening after the disaster, there was still no cell phone signal, and I couldn't reach my parents who were traveling out of town, so I had to go back. The rescue team set up a temporary medical room at the elementary school, and I volunteered. As soon as I entered, I ran into a newly arrived injured person. It was the little girl from next door. She suffered extensive abrasions all over her body and minor fractures in both arms, but fortunately, being small in stature, she hid under the bed when the roof collapsed and avoided fatal injuries. Zhu Lijun lay on top of her, crying her heart out, and as soon as she looked up and saw me, she immediately started shouting angrily, "It's all your fault. My daughter is injured like this because of you. Being your neighbor is the worst luck I've had in 8 lifetimes. You must pay for my daughter's medical expenses in full." I was left speechless by her shouting, so I simply threw out a line, "If you have evidence, go ahead and sue me. If you don't, be careful. I might just sue you for defamation right now." With that, I pulled over a nearby volunteer to serve as my witness on the spot. Zhu Lijun backed down, glaring at me with resentment. "This isn't over between us." Then, with her tail between her legs, she slipped into the medical room. I watched as this family entered and took the largest bed, nearly pushing the patient with a lung hemorrhage next to them onto the floor. I couldn't help but shake my head, feeling once again relieved that I had made the right choice this time. I didn't let my heart soften to save anyone again. It's not that I wished for the little girl to come to harm, but when an earthquake strikes, no one has the ability to protect themselves. At that time, I was incredibly lucky to bring the little girl out of the building unharmed. Moreover, hiding under the bed and waiting for rescue would have given her a better chance of survival than if I had recklessly tried to save her. Besides, with such despicable parents, anyone who gets involved with them is bound to have bad luck. For a week after the earthquake, the roads were finally cleared. As soon as communication was restored, I called my parents and told them not to come, saying I would follow the rescue team's vehicle out. When I reached the intersection where the road was still intact, I saw my parents waiting there, their eyes filled with anxious anticipation. I couldn't hold back and threw myself into their arms, sobbing uncontrollably. "Dad, Mom," tears welled up in my parents' eyes as they looked me over from head to toe, their expressions filled with relief at having survived the disaster. "It's good that you're safe. It's good that you're safe," they said. "From now on, we'll take you with us wherever we go. We're sorry, sweetheart, you must have been so scared being home alone at that time. This period is right after my internship ended, and I felt so tired that I wanted to rest at home, which is why I didn't travel with my parents." But my parents blamed themselves for everything, just like in my previous life. Because I had been amputated, they turned gray overnight, filled with countless feelings of guilt and self-blame, which made my heart ache. Fortunately, in this life, I am physically intact, standing safely before them, and I can still let them enjoy the happiness of family and share the joys of life together. When I returned to the hotel where my parents were staying, I told them about the family next door. My parents agreed with my approach and sighed. I've told them many times before about the clutter issue, saying it's a safety hazard, but they didn't listen, and that's what harmed their daughter. "This isn't your fault. Don't blame yourself," I nodded, feeling not the slightest bit of guilt in my heart. After all, in my previous life, I had already saved them once, only to be repaid with ingratitude and the ruin of my family. 5. I thought I would never have any dealings with that bizarre family again in my life. Little did I expect that half a month later, I would become famous. After the disaster, news reporters went to the hospital for interviews. Zhu Lijun, squeezed among the injured, held her daughter and wept bitterly, insisting that I was the one who had harmed her daughter. When the rescue team went in to search, they said they saw a large amount of debris blocking the corridor. Those things were usually placed there by her. The only escape route for my daughter was blocked by her. When the earthquake struck, she only cared about saving herself. The reporter then inquired with the rescue team and, after confirming the incident, produced a special report on the earthquake, highlighting how cluttered passageways had created escape hazards. Online criticism of me surged like a tidal wave. Public opinion almost unanimously sided with the neighbor's family. After all, on one side was me, an adult who escaped unscathed, and on the other was a pitiful mother, homeless and holding her severely injured daughter. People always instinctively sympathize with the underdog. Afterwards, Zhu Lijun even used this report to launch an online fundraising campaign on Shuidiku, exaggerating the illness to make a fortune. With each media interview, the couple visibly gained weight. and their clothes were all replaced with luxury brands. Meanwhile, I was doxxed by netizens, who exposed my parents' family information and my workplace. The internship unit that had promised to offer me a full-time position called, saying that netizens had flooded their official social media accounts with abusive comments, causing a very negative impact, so they withdrew my offer. I understood and went to the company the next day to move my things. Upon returning to the hotel, I found a cardboard box placed at the door of our room. Inside the box was a dead cat. My mother was so frightened that her blood pressure spiked, and she felt dizzy, lying in bed the whole time, watching the family's phones buzzing incessantly, with dozens of harassing and abusive messages flooding in every second. I finally couldn't take it anymore. Well, since they've gone to extremes, don't blame me for not holding back. 6. I directly found several media outlets from a pile of spam calls and eventually confirmed the program flow with a relatively authoritative legal education show team. As soon as the announcement was made, netizens flocked to the official Weibo of the program to leave comments. The shrinking turtle is finally coming out. When is the show being recorded? I'll go throw rotten eggs at your TV station's entrance, you idiot. Come out now. I've never hit a woman before, but this time I really want to tear you apart. How dare you not go to the hospital to apologize to that little girl after all? This time, the comments were getting more and more intense. To ensure my safety, the show's production team came to discuss with me whether we could broadcast the program live. I thought about it for a moment and nodded in agreement. Before heading to the TV station, I first took my parents to the police station. One reason was to report the incidents, including the harassing messages and the dead cat delivery, and the other was to ensure their safety during the program's broadcast. Afterwards, I disguised myself and entered the recording studio through the internal passage. While I was still fixing my hair, the host hurried over to me. Miss Chiao, the Zhu family has also started a live stream just now. Do you think you need to reconsider your wording? I knew he was advising me to change my clarification into an apology to calm the anger of netizens. I took out my phone, searched, and entered Zhu Lijun's live stream. I saw her tightly hugging her daughter, disregarding the girl's fractured arm, and crying, "Please, everyone, must uphold justice for me and my poor daughter." The number of viewers in the live stream has already exceeded 20,000 and is still soaring. The abusive words hurled at me in the bullet comments were so filthy that the system censored them into asterisks. The host was still waiting on the side, but I curled the corner of my lips and smiled brightly, saying, "No need. Just go with what was said before. Now they're getting all the attention, but I'll make sure they fall just as hard later." 7. An hour later, the program team also started an online live stream. Netizens came over from Zhu Lijun's side and flooded the chat with comments as soon as they entered the live stream. "How dare you still appear on the show? Do you think you're beautiful and want to become famous? Black fame is still fame, right? Whoever dares to support you, I'll dox them. That little girl is still lying in the hospital, and you have the mood to do a show, even wearing makeup." The director, seeing the flood of foul language, couldn't help but worry and held up a cue card for the host on stage. Seeing this, I smiled and shook my head at him, signaling to proceed as usual. The host had no choice but to read from the script. "Today, we have invited Ms. Xiao Yu, the central figure of our earthquake special report, to the program to provide a legal education report on the series of events she has recently encountered." I nodded, then turned to the screen and said succinctly, "The internet is not a lawless place. Those who have been using abusive IDs in live streams, sending dead cat packages to my parents, and harassing messages. I have already had my parents file a report at the police station this morning and will be taking legal action." Leaving aside the earthquake special report, without naming names or specifying that the clutter was piled up by me, "You have already violated the law by arbitrarily cyberbullying me and doxing my information based solely on one-sided claims. I believe the judiciary will grant me justice." During my undergraduate studies, I minored in law. Although I only have a basic understanding, it's more than enough to deal with these mindless online trolls. Many people immediately delete their comments as soon as they hear about the police being involved, but more legally ignorant individuals stubbornly continue to attack. "Who are you trying to scare? It was you who carelessly blocked the escape route, making it almost impossible for rescuers to reach the little girl's home. You, on the other hand, managed to escape unscathed during the earthquake, while the little girl nearly died because of you and is still lying in the hospital. So, you're the one who put it there, and now you're trying to divert attention by accusing others of cyberbullying. How shameless." "We speak for justice. We are not afraid." "Justice?" I sneered inwardly and simply asked the director to switch the barrage comments onto the big screen. ready to confront these netizens one by one. First of all, you have no evidence. These statements are just slander and defamation. Please take screenshots, and I'll file a lawsuit against you all later. If you have solid proof, you can also call the police to arrest me right away. I'm ready anytime. Seeing how tough I was, the netizens were momentarily choked up, feeling as if their lungs were hurting, and immediately brought up Zhu Lijun's family with certainty. Auntie Zhu herself said that their family are honest, simple farmers. How could they possibly lie? They worked hard for most of their lives to buy a house in the city and became your neighbors, yet you look down on them and block the road with clutter, just looking at your sly appearance. You're clearly not a good person. If you have any conscience, you should kneel down and kowtow to Aunt Zhu's family right now, begging for forgiveness. Maybe they are kind and generous enough to let bygones be bygones. The bizarre comments from netizens really made me laugh. When they can't win an argument with me, they resort to personal attacks, even making my appearance and family background a sin, even through the internet. I suspect these people haven't even graduated from kindergarten. City folks are hypocritical and cunning, while farmers are simple and kind. You've really mastered the stereotypes. Have you ever asked if the law acknowledges that Zhu Lijun and her husband spend their days either playing cards or drinking, neglecting their child at home? Not only are the clutter in the hallway theirs, but even their house is often so messy there's no place to step. These are all things I've seen with my own eyes, but netizens don't believe even a single punctuation mark. Nonsense. Aunt Zhu is so clean and respectable, clearly with good living habits. Stop slandering and spreading rumors here. Is that so? I sneered, immediately pulling up a screenshot from the live stream. Then why are there new clothes, with the tag still on, already so dirty? This is a screenshot I took while I was doing my makeup earlier. In the image, Zhu Lijun was crying pitifully, wiping away her tears with her hands. Both of her cuffs were stained with grime, oil, soot, and even half a sunflower seed shell. The key point is that the clothes still looked crisp and new, clearly just bought, with the tag still hanging from the hem. Most netizens had just come from her side, and while listening to Zhu Lijun's tearful account, they were so focused on sympathy that they didn't pay attention. Now, at first glance, they also found it disgustingly dirty. Once the photos were released, it was expected that netizens would come to their senses. However, their preconceived biases kept them firmly on Zhu Lijun's side. Aunt Zhu has to take care of her injured daughter, so it's normal for her to be too busy to clean up. Do you have no mother of your own, and can't stand seeing someone else being good to their daughter? Watching the barrage gradually become more intense again, I was so angry that I laughed. Indeed, once someone is labeled as bad, no amount of explanation will help. I gave up on continuing to argue with them and turned to answer the host's questions. Fortunately, the host conducted the interview fairly, allowing me to inform the public about the true situation before and after the earthquake and share many practical escape tips. In a way, I did a good deed. 8. After the first episode aired, the public opinion began to shift slightly, because I spoke with substance, provided detailed explanations of survival knowledge, and maintained a firm stance. Some netizens started to question the ownership of the clutter. At this point, Zhu Lijun grew anxious as she began to see one or two comments during the live stream accusing her of hype and questioning her, along with a decline in viewership due to fading popularity. She felt as though her designer coat might slip away from her at any moment. Moreover, it's tolerable if the child cries once or twice, but if it happens too often, it becomes annoying. Taking the child out again doesn't sit well with the audience either. So, on this day, Zhu Lijun's husband, Tian Daong, appeared on camera, looking troubled as he brought up another matter. Actually, Xiao Yu tried to seduce me in private, but I didn't pay her any attention. That's also why she held a grudge and threw the trash in the hallway. I didn't want to say anything about it since she's a young woman, but now that she's slandering our whole family, her behavior is truly despicable. One word stirred up 1,000 waves, and the barrage exploded instantly. However, more people still found it hard to believe. It can't be. Although Xiao Yu isn't a good person, she looks attractive and well-proportioned, so she shouldn't lack boyfriends. How is that impossible? My daughter saw it with her own eyes. Zhu Lijun seemed to have anticipated this and pulled her daughter forward. The little girl had both arms in plaster casts, her face covered in abrasions. She had just had her dressings changed, and the pain had brought tears to her eyes, making her look even more pitiful. She huddled in her mother's arms and timidly spoke toward the camera. The big sister next door often pointed her phone at Dad to take pictures. Dad told her not to, but she wouldn't listen. I don't like her taking pictures of Dad because Dad belongs to Mom, and dad only loves mom. I know the older sister didn't save me because she doesn't like me. I don't blame her, but I will still grow up to be an excellent adult who is willing to help others. These words directly confirm my suspicion of Tian Dayoung's ulterior motives. When I saw the video, I vomited the dinner I had that day, not to mention that Tian Dayoung is old and ugly, with a mouthful of black teeth from smoking, but just the way he spits everywhere and can't help but stare at young girls' legs whenever he goes out. Even if I were blind, I couldn't possibly be interested in him. What chilled me the most wasn't the couple's dirty tricks, but the evasive look in the little girl's eyes when she said those things. A 5-year-old child already has basic judgment. She clearly knew it was wrong, yet she still chose to slander me. I never expected that in my past life. I saved such an ungrateful child. Sure enough, netizens once again believed Zhu Lijun and her family. The online attacks against me surged with renewed ferocity. This time, someone even sent my black and white funeral photo to the hotel. Fortunately, I had sent my parents to stay with relatives in another city in advance, sparing them from further shock. Zhu Lijun's live stream viewership skyrocketed, and she raked in millions in revenue overnight. I saw her laughing so much that several more wrinkles appeared on her face. However, when the media contacted me again this time, I declined to appear on camera. My previous experience taught me that most netizens just follow the crowd. Even if I managed to convince them temporarily, it wouldn't make much difference. In the end, having solid evidence is far more effective and powerful anyway. I've already gathered all the evidence and filed a lawsuit. I should hear back in the next few days. How arrogant the Zhu Lijun family is now, how miserable their end will be later. Having thought it through, I simply stayed indoors, happily reading novels in my hotel room. 9. Not long after, Zhu Lijun received a court summons, and a phone call came directly to me. As soon as I answered, it was an emotionally charged stream of insults. You shameless Xiao Yu, how dare you sue us? My daughter's arm hasn't healed yet, and her pretty face is scarred. She might never get married, and you're kicking us while we're down. You're utterly heartless. Aren't you afraid you'll die a horrible death later? I frowned, finding it too filthy for my ears, and simply hung up the phone, then blocked the number. She probably couldn't get through, so after a while, she tried calling from another number. This time when she answered, her tone had softened considerably. Xiao Yu, if you withdraw the lawsuit from the court, I won't mention your name in my live streams anymore. We'll be even, and we can just let this go. Hearing her speak so shamelessly, I couldn't help but wonder who gave her the confidence. Impossible, I flatly refused. Whose belongings they are is clearly shown in my video, and the police have notarized it. You can't escape this. I won't settle for anything less than the justice I deserve. Joke. Up to this point, the situation has escalated, and their family has made a fortune through live streaming, while my parents have been maliciously harassed to the point of nervous breakdown, and I have been drenched with bucket after bucket of dirty water. Why should we settle the matter quietly and become stepping stones for such scum to accumulate wealth? Moreover, the clutter was originally placed by their family, so they were never in the right from the start. They should have anticipated things coming to this point long ago. Zhu Lijun was so angry that she wanted to hurl profanities at me again, but I quickly hung up the phone, repeated the process of blocking and blacklisting her, and tossed the trash where it belongs, into the trash can. The next day, Tian Dayoung came to the hotel to confront me. Netizens had already doxed my address again, so I had stocked up on supplies and had no intention of leaving the house. Bang, bang. When the knocking started, I saw a pockmarked, round face through the door panel and took a step back in fright, adding an extra lock to the electronic door lock. I'm warning you, there's surveillance in this hallway, right aimed at the door. If you dare to cause trouble, the evidence will be sent to the court in no time, and I'll have my lawyer add another charge against you. Before seeing my parents off, I lied and said my boyfriend was coming to keep me company, but in reality, I've been alone the whole time. For safety, I even paid to have the hotel install a higher definition surveillance camera, and right now, I'm holding a baseball bat. Tian Dayoung outside the door stopped trying to force it open, looking embarrassed. Miss Chiao, we're neighbors after all, let's talk things over. My wife spoke harshly when our child got hurt, and I apologize on her behalf. Also, I've prepared 10,000 yuan. How about we settle this privately? Settled privately. I let out a cold laugh. Now you're scared. What were you doing earlier? You took advantage of the fact that all the surveillance in the earthquake-stricken community was gone, so there was no way to prove who owned that pile of clutter. You used that to attack me recklessly, harm my family, and later slandered me as a mistress. When you were doing all this, Did you ever think about whether I'd live or die? Tian Daong outside was left speechless and could only keep raising the stakes. How about 30,000, no, 100,000 yuan, is that enough? 100,000 to them, this amount is now just a drop in the bucket, not even as expensive as the bag Zhu Lijun uses for grocery shopping, yet this is all they're willing to offer. They think everyone else is as short-sighted as they are. No need. Instead of wasting your breath here, you might as well use that money to hire a good lawyer and see how you can clear your names in court. Dropping the lawsuit is out of the question. After saying that, I ignored the other person and called security to have them removed. 10. On the first day of the court session, media outlets immediately received the news and reported it. The online criticism against me continues unabated, just because there's no evidence, but what goes around comes around, and justice, though delayed, will arrive. I believe in the fairness of the law, and I am sure it will bring justice to poor Aunt Zhu's family. The trial was not open to the public, so Zhu Lijun was still live streaming that day. Faced with encouraging and supportive comments, Zhu Lijun was distracted. For the first time, she didn't take advantage of the situation to escalate things. Instead, she turned around and spoke up for me. Xiao Yu is just a young girl who just graduated from college. I think the condemnation she has faced over these past few days is enough. When I saw her in court, my heart softened. I think maybe we should just let this go. She put on a very magnanimous appearance, but in reality, she was trembling with anxiety inside. After all, when she saw the materials I submitted in court, she was instantly terrified. Earlier, to file a complaint with the property management, I had recorded many videos of their messy piles of clutter, including them retrieving items from the clutter during their daily comings and goings, and the chaotic indoor environment. This is what the little girl said. The content of the video I secretly filmed of Tian Daong, because private recordings require a lot of procedures to be admissible as evidence in court. It wasn't until today that Zhu Lijun realized how solid the evidence I have is. With the evidence being as solid as a rock, what she's trying to do now is to win over as much public sympathy as possible before the verdict is delivered. Unfortunately, it seems that netizens are not buying it. What's going on? Just a few days ago, you were crying and begging us to help you seek justice. Now, after just one meeting, you've softened. Have you seen how miserable your daughter is? Now that you're playing the saint, we end up looking like the villains. If you had told us earlier that the operation was this tricky, we wouldn't have wasted so much time on her. The situation got completely out of control. Zhu Lijun didn't expect netizens to be so cynical, not allowing her to backtrack at all. Seeing the fire was about to burn her, she hurriedly ended the live stream. After that, she kept calling me, but unfortunately, I never answered. She tried to confront me at my door, but I had already quickly changed hotels as the situation turned in my favor. In the end, she contacted my lawyer and wrote a blank check, allowing me to fill in any amount, as long as I would drop the lawsuit. I wrote the check, but it was just 2 words, serves you right. It said that Zhu Lijun was so angry she almost fainted on the spot. 11. On the day the verdict was announced, the previous legal education program immediately posted the case process online, because they interviewed me. Their program has also faced a lot of controversy during this time, so on the day of the trial, they went in and filmed the entire process. Now that it's been released, netizens can see the ugly faces of Zhu Lijun's family as they walk through the hallway, take things from the pile of clutter, and even stand with hands on hips, loudly insulting the property management staff who came to persuade them. These videos also include Tian Daong's verbal harassment of me, and the clear, resentful gaze of the little girl hiding in the corner, staring at me. Those piles of clutter nearly blocked my escape route during the earthquake at the time. If I had to cross those obstacles to rescue people, the only outcome waiting for me would be being buried alive. In such an escape environment, it would be faster for search and rescue personnel to go down directly after the ceiling collapses. At this point, the truth has come to light. The internet has once again erupted in an uproar. How badly Zhu Lijun's family sold before, how strong the rebound is now. The victim becomes the perpetrator, and even drags netizens into cyberbullying innocent people, making the audience feel deceived and doubling their anger. At the same time, opportunistic media also turned to dig up information about Zhu Lijun's family. This investigation revealed more scandals about this couple. Tian Daong is addicted to gambling and has accumulated a mountain of debt. Not only does he smoke and drink, but he has also been arrested twice for groping women on the subway. Zhu Lijun is similarly obsessed with playing cards. When she's at home with nothing to do, she often scolds and hits her children. Due to her habit of stealing from several factories, she has changed jobs multiple times and is now blacklisted by local factories. Even their daughter, raised under their influence, is criticized by the neighbors for frequently sneaking into others' homes and stealing things. However, whenever anyone confronts them, Zhu Lijun and her husband shut down the conversation by accusing the neighbors of looking down on rural people and farmers. When the family's dark history was all exposed online, netizens finally saw their true colors. The anger from those who had been fooled by Zhu Lijun to the point of blindness was even more intense than the backlash against me earlier, and the family was completely reduced to public enemies, despised by everyone. Not only was the live stream room reported and banned, but netizens who had previously gifted her were also clamoring for refunds. Zhu Lijun did not respond, thinking that by hiding like a turtle, she could avoid trouble, not wanting all netizens to flock to the live streaming platform and demand refunds on the grounds of being underage. Unable to contact Zhu Lijun, the platform filed a lawsuit against her in court. Upon learning that she could face imprisonment for the large sum of money involved, Zhu Lijun was frightened and resumed live streaming, tearfully explaining that she had used the money to buy a house and begging for forgiveness from netizens. However, netizens were not swayed at all, only hurling insults in the comments and mocking her, saying she deserved it. Half a month later, I was once again stopped by Zhu Lijun at the resettlement site for disaster victims. This time, with a face full of helplessness, she knelt down before me. Xiao Yu, I beg you, as a magnanimous person, to overlook our pettiness and spare our family. This earthquake has completely destroyed our lives. Now netizens are clearly pushing us to the brink. I took a few steps back to avoid her. You were the one who used me to gain attention and traffic in the first place. What's the point of saying all this to me now? I said it a long time ago. She would face retribution. Zhu Lijun refused to give up, crawling on her knees to get closer to me, reaching out to grab my pant leg. Then tell me what you want me to do. Will it be enough if I kowtow to you? I'll do it right now. I was baffled by what I saw, but then I caught a glimpse of Tian Daong hiding around the corner, holding up his phone and recording. I immediately understood that, even now, this couple still wanted to turn the tables and use me to climb higher. What a disgusting family. I directly pulled out the court judgment I always carried with me and read the result aloud. Righteous and stern, according to the law, apologizing to me is an obligation you must fulfill, and in addition, you must compensate me for emotional distress and lost wages totaling 300,000 yuan. Given your refusal to repay the money, the court has already allocated the newly assigned house for disaster victims to me through the liquidation of your assets. As for the money owed to netizens, you still have another house to repay them slowly. Zhu Lijun was dumbfounded on the spot. Today, she came to see the resettlement house, happily planning to bring her extended family to stay for a few days and show off, only to find it sealed off in the blink of an eye. That would have been fine, but the key point is that Tian Daong was live streaming in an attempt to frame me, and now he's the one who ended up getting played. Once netizens learn this trick, they'll definitely sue in court to have her house auctioned off. In her excitement, Zhu Lijun let out a scream and lunged at me. Fortunately, I was prepared and ducked into a nearby security booth, watching her wail and be driven out of the complex by security. This time no one felt sorry for her anymore. 13. Subsequently, the legal education program conducted a special report, framing this cyberbullying incident as a typical case. Apart from the despicable actions of Zhu Lijun's family, information about me has also been made public. However, this time it's a good thing. During my 4 years at school, I excelled both academically and in character, receiving scholarships every year and helping several tutoring students gain admission to prestigious universities. There are also my honorable deeds, such as rescuing stray cats and dogs and helping the police crack down on a black-hearted slaughterhouse. After the program aired, many netizens couldn't find my personal Weibo account and went to the official Weibo of the program team to apologize and express their remorse. I did not respond at all, because from beginning to end, I didn't care about the netizens' condemnation, nor did I need these apologies. Later, several educational and pet institutions extended olive branches to me, saying that my image was very positive and suitable for being a spokesperson. The salary and benefits they offered were much better than those at the internship place. After careful consideration, I chose one of them and officially became a new member of the workforce. Another pleasant surprise was that the previous legal education program invited me to be a regular guest. As a result, I revisited the legal knowledge I had learned in college, delved into it for a few years, obtained a lawyer's license, and even started my own new program. After the online bullying incident, my support rate on the internet was very high, making me almost a minor celebrity. from then on, my career went smoothly, and I kept climbing the ladder. As for Zhu Lijun and her family, they weren't so fortunate. Although they earned a lot from live streaming before, the couple's gambling addiction was too severe, and they squandered everything. Apart from buying a house, they lost all their money, and Tian Daong even borrowed high-interest loans online. Later, their house was confiscated by the court, and they lost their newly allocated resettlement housing. The couple was left with a mountain of debt, ending up with nothing but losses on all fronts due to their financial struggles. Their daughter's scrapes and bruises went untreated, leaving her face covered in scars. Zhu Lijun still wanted to make a comeback, planning to have the little girl appear on camera with her scarred face to evoke sympathy, but as soon as netizens recognized them, their expressions turned sour. A family of bugs, get out of my sight, serves you right. I'm glad you're miserable, still trying to make money, dream on. I didn't earn a single penny, but instead got a good scolding. Since then, their family has completely disappeared from the internet. It is said that they had no choice but to return to the countryside. Unfortunately, when they bought a house in the city, they had been arrogant and offended many people. Relatives and friends were unwilling to pay them any attention, and they soon became beggars, wandering from village to village to make a living. Many years later, I achieved success in my career and became a small leader at a television station. I organized a trip to the countryside to offer condolences. I met Zhu Lijun in a remote mountainous area. She was hunched over, with graying hair and a face that looked much older than her age, fishing a plastic water bottle out of a foul-smelling ditch. Nearby villager explained, she's from out of town. She came here with her husband at first, but he was beaten to death over a debt, leaving her and their daughter. Later, the daughter ran off and abandoned her too. She went mad from dwelling on it all. I watched her squatting there, giggling foolishly, and felt nothing but pity and resentment. Heaven sees what people do, so just do good deeds. After thinking about this, I turned and entered a villager's home, continuing to bring firewood, rice, oil, salt, and warmth to those living in hardship. That concludes the first story. Don't go away, the next story is even more exciting. On the day of the earthquake, I suffered a concussion while trying to save Xia Yanzhou, yet, because I didn't save his beloved by Yueguang, Fang Nuanyuan, first, he called me a murderer. He even said I was malicious-hearted and wanted to divorce me. After the divorce, I blamed myself and never married for the rest of my life. It wasn't until I was on my deathbed that Xia Yanzhou came to see me, and by his side was his deceased white moonlight, Fang Nuanyuan. Only then did I realize that everything was a lie fabricated by Xia Yanzhou to be with Fang Nuanyuan. I was so shocked that I dropped dead on the spot. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the earthquake. This time, I would rather go teach in a remote mountain area than hold on to any hope for Xia Yanzhou. Zhou Chu, run, it's an earthquake. As soon as I opened my eyes, I felt the room shaking violently. The walls were also cracking at a visible rate, with plaster falling everywhere. Li Mimi, a colleague from the same office at the health station, grabbed me and ran outside. In my previous life, Li Mimi was also the first to pull me and run outside, but after I ran out, my husband Xia Yanzhou hadn't come out yet. I had to search room by room. When I finally found him, he and Fang Nuanyuan were in the lounge at the health station. Xia Yanzhou was putting on his clothes and looked flustered when he saw me, and his white moonlight, Fang Nuanyuan, was only wearing a tank top and searching for her shoes all over the floor. Even though I was foolish, I knew what had happened between them. Yet, when the roof beam was about to fall and hit him, I quickly pulled Xia Yanzhou away. I even ended up with a concussion from the impact. For the next few decades, my head would ache faintly whenever it was rainy or overcast. Xia Yanzhou managed to dodge the falling beam, but Fang Nuanyuan was not so lucky. She was struck and fell to the ground. However, not knowing if there would be aftershocks, I desperately held on to Xia Yanzhou. Soon after, the entire house collapsed. An 8.0 magnitude earthquake caused severe casualties. Yet, I saved Xia Yanzhou, and he showed not a trace of gratitude toward me. Instead, he questioned why I didn't save Fang Nuanyuan. He even said that it was because of my appearance that day that led to Fang Nuanyuan's death. He said I was the murderer who killed Fang Nuanyuan. He even threatened me with a hunger strike to force me to divorce him. Because of Xia Yanzhou, I fell into the trap of self-justification at that time. In the end, I left with nothing, taking nothing with me. Choo choo, that was so dangerous just now. I snapped out of my memories and looked at Li Mimi, who was pulling me anxiously, her face covered in sweat. Only then did I realize that I had been reborn. I touched my youthful, delicate skin and looked at my long, dark, and lustrous hair. I have returned to the most Beautiful age of my life, back to my most spirited 23-year-old self. Choo-choo, what are you daydreaming about? Seeing that I didn't respond to her, Lee Mimi kept waving her hand in front of my eyes. Choo-choo, are you scared out of your wits? I finally snapped back to reality. No, not at all. I was just startled. That's good. At least we're okay. Look at that house shaking. It's almost collapsing. Lee Mimi pulled me to an open area, pointing at the shaking house and saying to me, by the way, where is your husband Xia Yanzhou? Could he still not have escaped? In my previous life, at this moment, I would have already been extremely anxious. Ignoring Lee Mimi's attempts to stop me, I rushed into the nearly collapsing room to look for him, but in this life, I won't be so foolish anymore. Mimi, I don't know either. Let's get out of here first. It's too dangerous. I grabbed Lee Mimi and headed toward a more distant and open area. Lee Mimi was my only friend at the health station. She was the first to stand up for me when she learned that Xia Yanzhou wanted to divorce me, but at that time, I was pushed to the brink of collapse by Xia Yanzhou and didn't even have a chance to say thank you to her before she was assigned to teach in a rural area. After finishing the teaching assignment, I was transferred back to the city to work as a cadre, and because of Xia Yanzhou, I was pointed at and gossiped about, until I could no longer stay at the health station, quitting my job to make a living by setting up a stall on the roadside. Xia Yanzhou, on the other hand, became the most experienced director of the health department. Due to hard work and exhaustion, my hair turned completely white before I turned 50, and I was plagued by illnesses. I passed away early at the age of 52, the year I died. Xia Yanzhou became the most senior director of the health department, and the Fang Nuan by his side looked to be only in her 30s. Thanks to his care, Lee Mimi and I arrived at an open area. Even after finding a place to sit down, my legs were still trembling. First, because the earthquake had shaken me to the point of weakness, and second, because I was trembling all over after realizing I had been reborn. Lee Mimi plucked 2 blades of grass, twisted them in her hands, and finally spoke to me. Choo-choo, I'm going to volunteer teach next month. I wish you could come with me. I knew Lee Mimi couldn't bear to part with me. In my previous life, when she found out Xia Yanzhou was going to divorce me, she also asked me to go with her to volunteer teach in the Northwest, but at that time, my heart was already dead, and I resigned from my job in a daze. I didn't even get to see her one last time before she left. Now that I've been given a second chance at life, I want to go to the Northwest with her. I also want to be like her, making barren land bloom and helping more children from the mountains understand the world beyond. Mimi, I'm willing to go with you. Are there any spots left at the station? I'll apply for one too. Choo-choo, you're already married. What about Xia Yanzhou if you go to teach in a remote area? Lee Mimi seemed not to have grasped why I would make such a decision. I love Xia Yanzhou so much that I almost lost myself. Even after discovering his affair with Fang Nuanyuan, I still wanted to forgive him and live a good life with him, but now I don't want to anymore. If you can't hold on to the sand, it's better to let it go. I've already suffered the consequences of my stubbornness, so it's better to let him go and make things easier for everyone. I'll talk to Xia Yanzhou about it, but before that, Mimi, could you keep my volunteer teaching plans a secret? Alright, but I wonder how he's doing. Such a severe earthquake, what could happen? At this time, everyone is busy. If they felt the earthquake, they would definitely run out, I said without any emotion, then glanced at the distant houses. Choo-choo, I feel like you've changed. In the past, whenever you mentioned Xia Yanzhou, you always put him first. Mimi, people always change. Look, that house is about to collapse. Mimi suddenly grabbed my arm and shook it, pointing toward the distant house that was swaying violently. I followed the direction of her finger and looked. It was the very room where Xia Yanzhou had lived in his previous life. As soon as Lee Mimi finished speaking, the house collapsed with a loud crash. I didn't know if Xia Yanzhou was still inside. Driven by curiosity, I was pulled by Lee Mimi to the side of the house. In her previous life, Fang Nuanyuan wasn't actually hit by anything. She simply bumped into a beam and fainted. After seeing me leave with Xia Yanzhou, she quietly slipped out of the house through the back door. Although Xia Yanzhou and I work in the same unit, Fang Nuanyuan does not. After that day, Fang Nuanyuan went back to her rural hometown to hide. It wasn't until Xia Yanzhou and I divorced that she came back to find him, and all of this, I was kept in the dark. Because of this incident, I was also subjected to Xia Yanzhou's emotional manipulation for a long time. Oh my god, there seems to be someone in the collapsed house. Lee Mimi shouted loudly, come and save someone, come and save someone. At this moment, the people who had just narrowly escaped and were in the open space slowly gathered around. Is someone inside? that can't be. Why didn't they run away in broad daylight? Yes, why didn't they run away in broad daylight? Although it's in the lounge, it's already well past the time for a nap break. The only reason not to run is because I'm not wearing any clothes. Just as I was putting on my clothes, the house collapsed, but if the matter is urgent, I would come out even without wearing clothes, unless they have done something shameful and disgraceful. I looked around but did not see Xia Yanzhou. Then the people in the ruins must be Xia Yanzhou and Fang Nuanyuan, since they didn't die in the previous life. They probably won't die in this one either. Then I really want to see their reactions when they are rescued. How will they face the pointing fingers of their colleagues and loved ones? Several strong young men had already started rescuing people. After digging for a while, they finally unearthed Xia Yanzhou, who was buried under the rubble. Xia Yanzhou lay in a sorry state on the ground, one leg pinned by rubble and a beam, his face already drained of color, but in his previous life, he was still wearing pants, while in this life, he was only in a pair of briefs. Seeing someone coming to rescue him, he didn't care about his dignity and kept shouting for help. After calling for help, he covered his leg and yelled, "My leg is broken, my leg is broken." The young, strong men moved the roof beam aside and carefully helped him up. Just as they were about to take him to the hospital, he said, "There's still someone inside. There's still a person inside. Please, save her, someone else." The colleagues looked at each other in confusion. Everyone from the unit is here now. After speaking, everyone looked behind Xia Yanzhou and saw a girl who had fainted. After noticing she had been knocked unconscious, Xia Yanzhou had been shielding her behind him, even at the risk of getting injured himself. But what shocked everyone even more was that the girl behind Xia Yanzhou was only wearing a tank top. He was only wearing a pair of silk shorts on his lower body. Seeing the current situation, everyone understood. It turned out that Xia Yanzhou had been in the room for so long because he was secretly having an affair with his childhood sweetheart, Fang Nuanyuan. Seeing the crowd's curious and amused gazes, Xia Yanzhou's face turned pale. He looked at me with guilt. "Chu, let me explain. What is there to explain? Isn't what we saw the truth?" Seeing that Xia Yanzhou still wanted to explain, the station master immediately stepped in to mediate. "Xiao Xia, let's talk about it after we go to the hospital." After a few people sent him and Fang Nuanyuan to the hospital, I went to the station master's office. "Station master, I want to go teach with Mimi." The station master paused his tea-drinking hand, his brows slightly furrowing. Chu, but if you go teach, what about Xia Yanzhou?" "Station master, I will divorce Xia Yanzhou. As you saw today, there is no longer any affection between us." Only then did the station master take a relieved sip of tea. "Chu, I've always had high hopes for you and wanted you to go teach in the rural areas with Mimi. It's just that you were married, so I never brought it up. I know the station master has always had my best interests at heart. In my previous life, when I wanted to resign because of the divorce, the station master tried to persuade me for a long time. He also said he could help me transfer to another unit, but I refused him as well." He slammed the teacup in frustration, as if disappointed that iron could not be turned into steel. "Zhou Chu, do you even know what's good for you? Are you really willing to throw away your future for a man like that? The unit has invested so much effort in nurturing you, and now you want to resign." Faced with the station chief's attempt to persuade me to stay, I simply bowed and said sorry, then left the unit. Little did I know that would be the beginning of my miserable life. My thoughts returned to the present. The station master put down his water cup and said, "All right. Chu, I knew I hadn't misjudged you. It's good that you have this awareness. The volunteer teaching spot will be for you and Li Mimi. As long as you work hard, you'll definitely become a cadre when you return. However, station master, could you please not tell anyone about my volunteer teaching for now? I'd like to wait until after I divorce Xia Yanzhou." The station master agreed, and I returned to my office from his. Unexpectedly, the office phone rang. When I answered, it was Xia Yanzhou's doctor. "Zhou Chu, Xia Yanzhou's leg is in critical condition now and requires amputation." "What? Amputation?" "So, if I don't intervene in the cause and effect, not only will Xia Yanzhou be exposed for his infidelity to me by everyone at the unit, but he will also lose a leg due to the earthquake. How could there be such a wonderful thing in the world? But I'm afraid that if I make this decision, Xia Yanzhou will hold a grudge against me. After all, he is a very scheming person. This is too serious. I must go home and discuss it with his mother." After hanging up the phone, I slowly made my way home. It wasn't until I was about to enter the door that I put on an urgent expression. "Mom, Yanzhou's leg is broken, and now he's in the hospital and needs an amputation. What should we do?" Xia Yanzhou's mother, Lu Ling, was still tidying up the mess in the yard after the earthquake. She only came out when she heard me calling her. I quickly repeated, "Mom, Yanzhou's leg was broken by a falling beam during the earthquake just now." Upon hearing this, Lu Ling couldn't even hold the broom in her hands steady. She stumbled over. "Zhou Chu, what did you say?" "Yanzhou's leg was crushed by a roof beam." "Yes, now it needs to be amputated." After hearing what I said, Lu Ling slumped to the ground, her face filled with disbelief. In my previous life, when I found out that Xia Yanzhou was cheating, I turned to Lu Ling to stand up for me, but she just glanced at me lightly and said with a measured tone, "Men have always had multiple wives and concubines since ancient times. Now that times are more open, Yanzhou just made a mistake by accident. As a woman, you should be more generous." It was even Lu Ling's idea to make me leave with nothing during the divorce. The bleakness of my later life is inextricably linked to Lu Ling. Seeing Lu Ling on the ground, I also imitated her and slumped to the floor. "Mom, the hospital says Yanzhou's leg has already necrotized and must be amputated. What should I do? I can't make a decision. Please go to the hospital and see for yourself." Lu Ling then stood up, looking at me with tear-filled eyes. "Let's go, take me to the hospital quickly." When we arrived at the hospital, the station manager and colleagues were already there. Since the incident happened at the workplace, the station manager felt very guilty. The station chief looked at Lu Ling and said with concern, "Aunt Lu, Yanzhou is waiting for his amputation to be signed off on. What do you think we should do now?" Because the station chief knew about my intention to divorce Xia Yanzhou, so naturally, he understood why I had called Lu Ling over. The attending physicians saw Lu Ling arrive and gathered around to explain Xia Yanzhou's condition to her. In the end, Lu Ling still signed the consent form, agreeing to amputate Xia Yanzhou's leg. However, I haven't told Lu Ling yet about my decision to divorce Xia Yanzhou. A surprise should always be revealed when least expected. I'm curious to see how Xia Yanzhou, who sacrificed a leg to protect Fang Nuanyuan, will live out the rest of his life. When Xia Yanzhou woke up after surgery, it was already 3 days later. During these days, it was Lu Ling who took care of him, and I only came to see him twice symbolically. Every time Lu Ling complained that I, as a daughter-in-law, was irresponsible, I used the excuse of being too busy with work after the earthquake. Today, hearing that Xia Yanzhou would wake up, I couldn't wait to come to the hospital to watch the excitement. When Xia Yanzhou woke up, the first person he saw was me. I clearly saw a flicker of disdain in his eyes, but the moment he spotted his mother, emotion finally surfaced. Lu Ling's eyes were brimming with tears as she looked at him, and only then did he realize something was wrong. He trembled as he spoke. "Mom, why are you crying? What's wrong with me? Don't scare me." Lu Ling remained silent, just lowering her head to feign busyness. It was only then that Xia Yanzhou tried to get up to see what had happened to him. It wasn't until he noticed the abnormality in his lower body that he realized one of his legs had been amputated. "This can't be real. Mom, where is my leg?" After asking his mother, he angrily questioned me. "Zhou Chu, what on earth is going on?" "Xia Yanzhou, do I need to remind you what happened to your leg? You were willing to risk your life to save someone, so what does a leg matter?" Only then did Xia Yanzhou remember the earthquake that day. He had shielded Fang Nuanyuan behind him, paying the price of a leg. "By the way, what about Nuan Nuan? Is she okay?" "Mom, have you seen Nuan Nuan?" "Silly child, what are you thinking about others at a time like this?" Lu Ling had already learned the reason behind the incident these past few days and knew that Xia Yanzhou had been hit in the leg by a falling beam while having an affair with Fang Nuan Nuan. She used to like Fang Nuan Nuan quite a bit, but after Xia Yanzhou lost a leg, she grew to despise her intensely. "She's doing just fine, knowing you lost a leg. She didn't even bother to come see you." Seeing Xia Yanzhou's expression of deep disappointment, Lu Ling spoke to him without holding back. Xia Yanzhou knew he was in the wrong and didn't ask about Fang Nuan Nuan again. Instead, he looked at me and said, "Zhou Chu, I was wrong in this matter. I promise to live a good life with you from now on and not think about Fang Nuan Nuan anymore. Now that your leg is broken, you remember me. What makes him so sure I would want a disabled person? I've already asked the station master to help me prepare the divorce papers. Everyone saw him cheating that day, so no matter what, I'm not the one at fault." I pretended to still like him a lot. "Yanzhou, what you need to do now is rest well and not think too much about it." After losing a leg, he was no longer the proud, favored son of heaven, becoming irritable and quick-tempered. During his recovery, he fell and got back up again and again. He couldn't accept how he had become a disabled person relying on crutches, and during this time, I knew he had secretly contacted Fong Nuanyuan several times. I always turned a blind eye until Xia Yanzhou was discharged from the hospital. I knew that the proud and aloof Xia Yanzhou from before was gone, and my application for the teaching volunteer program had been approved. Xia Yanzhou's medical treatment this time cost a lot of money. But fortunately, the company covered part of it, so we still had a considerable amount of savings. My divorce demand was for Xia Yanzhou to give me all the savings. After all, the home we live in now is just a dormitory assigned by the unit. It will be reclaimed in the future. In the previous life, when we divorced, Xia Yanzhou accidentally bought a piece of land with money. 10 years later, that land was demolished, and he received a substantial amount of compensation, which directly gave him financial freedom. Indiana, this life, I must act before Xia Yanzhou buys that land. In my previous life, I loved Xia Yanzhou too much, which caused me to lose myself. I am grateful to heaven for giving me a second chance, letting me know that the person one should love most is oneself. Xia Yanzhou returned home and still often lost his temper with me. Finally, one day I couldn't bear it anymore and took out the divorce agreement. I know you don't have me in your heart, Xia Yanzhou, let's get a divorce. I spoke to Xia Yanzhou in a calm tone, but he didn't seem as happy as he was in our previous life. I even faintly saw sorrow in his eyes. Zhou Chu, are you leaving? Me too. Why was he so eager to divorce me in his past life? But now that I'm the one bringing it up, he's suddenly unwilling, but his usual pride in front of me kept him from saying anything to make me stay. Xia Yanzhou, everyone knows about you and Fong Nuanyuan now. People are pointing fingers at me everywhere. I demand that you give me all your savings. I'll move out, and you can bring Fong Nuanyuan here to live happily together. Xia Yanzhou listened to me and surprisingly had no objection to the matter of the savings. He said fiercely, Zhou Chu, don't you regret it? Then he signed. I never expected that in this life. Without Lu Ling's obstruction, my divorce would go so smoothly, and the fact that Xia Yanzhou and I got divorced was known to all my colleagues except Lu Ling. It's about time for a divorce. That Xia Yanzhou will come to appreciate your worth someday. While that Fong Nuanyuan clearly isn't someone easy to deal with, people always realize the value of what they've lost only after it's gone. Just wait and see. Xia Yanzhou will definitely regret it in the future. Li Mimi kept trying to comfort me, afraid I would be upset. Don't worry, Mimi, I've already seen him for who he truly is, so I won't be heartbroken. Xia Yanzhou also gave me the savings passbook. After getting the money, the first thing I did was buy the piece of land that Xia Yanzhou had purchased in my previous life. I moved into the single dormitory and lived with Li Mimi. In another week, we will be going to the mountainous area to volunteer as teachers. Xia Yanzhou really brought Fong Nuanyuan over. The two of them even got their marriage certificate at lightning speed. On the day they registered their marriage, Xia Yanzhou deliberately brought Fong Nuanyuan to parade in front of me several times, thinking it would provoke me, but what he didn't know was that I was no longer the Zhou Chu from the previous life who couldn't live without him. Now, not only did I not love him, but I also wouldn't love a disabled version of him. You can't wrap fire in paper. And Lu Ling eventually found out about my divorce from Xia Yanzhou. Lu Ling came to my workplace and made a scene, saying that I looked down on the poor and favor the rich, and that I abandoned her son because his leg was broken. She also said that I am fickle and have questionable character. The station manager called Lu Ling into the office, explaining that Xia Yanzhou was at fault first, as his affair was witnessed by everyone in the unit. Only then did Lu Ling fall silent. Before leaving, she found me and said fiercely, divorcing Yanzhou is a blessing for him. Even with one leg missing, our Yanzhou would still have plenty of people wanting him. So, on the day Xia Yanzhou and Fong Nuanyuan registered their marriage, Lu Ling also flaunted it in front of me. Some people really think they're so noble. What's the difference between a divorced woman and a worn-out shoe? Now our Yanzhou has someone who wants him, but who knows about certain others? Li Mimi wanted to rush up and argue with her, but I stopped her. Mimi, ignore him. Let him put on his own one-man show. Chu Chu, I'm just standing up for you. It's clearly their fault, yet they act like victims. It really disgusts me. I rented out the land I bought, so not only do I have a monthly income, but the land isn't left idle either. A week later, Li Mimi and I boarded the train to start our volunteer teaching. I wrote to my parents about my experiences, and they were both heartbroken for me and supportive of my decision. Wait until I come back from teaching, and will throw a grand welcome banquet for me. In this life, I don't even have the face to see my parents. In my previous life, my parents didn't agree to me marrying Xia Yanzhou because both my parents were officials in the compound, and they looked down on him as a social climber who wanted to marry up. but I was willing to sever ties with my parents just to marry him. After getting married, I never once bowed my head to my parents. Xia Yanzhou saw my relationship with my parents and realized he couldn't rely on his in-laws, so his attitude toward me did a complete 180-degree turn. After the divorce, even during my most financially difficult times, I never thought of bowing my head to my parents. Looking back now, I realize how foolish I was in my past life to think that love was more important than family. So in this life, after being reborn, the first thing I did was write a letter to my parents to apologize, and I told them that once I finish my volunteer teaching and adjust my mindset, I will definitely go back to see them. The 2 years of volunteer teaching passed quickly. During these 2 years, being with the simple and honest children broadened my perspective even more. During these 2 years, I didn't have to think about anything else. I focused solely on teaching and contributing to the development of the Northwest. However, I often hear Li Mimi talk to me about Xia Yanzhou. I heard that Xia Yanzhou and Fang Nuanyuan's life isn't as good as it was in their previous life. In this life, Xia Yanzhou lost his leg and didn't become a lab technician like he did in his previous life. The station chief gave him a sinecure, so he has no chance of promotion in this lifetime. Fang Nuanyuan realized that Xia Yanzhou had no hope of promotion and knew she had been deceived by her. I married Xia Yanzhou because I valued his career and prospects, but now he not only has a poor job but also suffers from low self-esteem due to his disability and has a bad temper. Fang Nuanyuan had no job, and to maintain her beauty, her expenses were high. Xia Yanzhou's salary decreased due to his job change, and he gave all his savings to me, so their life was quite tight, and sometimes they had to rely on the money Lu Ling earned from selling corn pancakes to support them. Not long after living such a life, Fang Nuanyuan managed to attach herself to a wealthy businessman. However, the wealthy businessman already had a wife and daughter. And Fang Nuanyuan's affair as the other woman was quickly exposed. Fang Nuanyuan just loves being the other woman, doesn't she? She was like that with Xia Yanzhou back then, and now that she's married to Xia Yanzhou, she's already attached herself to someone else. Li Mimi told me about the things that had happened to Xia Yanzhou over the years, saying with schadenfreude. I chimed in, a person's nature can't be changed. Perhaps this is just who she is. Later, Xia Yanzhou felt he had lost face for being cuckolded, so he divorced Fang Nuanyuan. Soon after, Fang Nuanyuan became the mistress of another wealthy man. After Li Mimi finished speaking, her eyes suddenly lit up as she said to me, I'm so looking forward to going back to Beijing next month and seeing Xia Yanzhou's reaction when he sees you. He must be absolutely filled with regret. I gently tapped Li Mimi's nose. What else is there to argue about with him? You might as well think about what we'll eat when we back in Beijing. These years in the barren Northwest, I could only survive on potatoes. The first thing I'll do when I return to Beijing is to have a big meal with Li Mimi, right? And I need to see my parents who have been worrying about me non-stop. On the day the teaching support ended, the villagers tearfully sent Li Mimi and me off for 2 miles. The children also cried their hearts out. I told them to study hard and that I would be waiting for them in Beijing when they go to college. I hope the seed planted in their hearts will inspire them to strive for progress. We will definitely meet again. After a long journey, I finally arrived in Beijing. As soon as I got off the train, I saw my parents and brother waiting for me with a banner. They saw me and their eyes welled up with tears. Choo-choo, come here quickly. Li Mimi's family had also been waiting for her for a long time. After we parted, we each rushed towards our loved ones. The moment I saw my family, I couldn't hold back my tears. I cried and said to them, Mom, Dad, it's just a volunteer teaching trip. Why do we need to put up a banner? My mother looked at me with affection. Choo-choo, you've suffered all these years. We've long thought Xia Yanzhou was no good. It's a good thing you got divorced. My father chimed in from the side. Can you stop bringing up unpleasant topics? What's the point of talking about that trash? My brother also joined in. Exactly. Don't mention him anymore. If it really comes to it, I'll go beat him up one day. To help my sister vent her anger, I wiped away my tears and smiled. I've long since let it go. Now, having you all is more than enough for me. We returned home, laughing and chatting joyfully with our family. My brother even proudly showed off the car he had just bought. Choo-choo, look at the car I just bought. I'll take you for a spin in the next couple of days. Instead of working in a government unit, my brother threw himself wholeheartedly into business. I just found out that my brother became a wealthy merchant in both his previous life and this one, yet I foolishly cut ties with them and ended up living a miserable life myself. On the way home by car, I happened to see a vendor on the roadside leaning on a crutch, and his back looked very familiar, but it passed by so quickly. just a fleeting glimpse in my eyes, after a few days of rest. I returned to my unit with the letter of introduction to report for duty. The station chief had already been promoted to the health department. He transferred both Lee Mimi and me to work at the health department. Not only did he grant Lee Mimi and me the treatment of cadres, but he also allocated housing for both of us. Unlike the previous staff dormitories, this batch of houses not only has property rights but is also multi-story buildings. Lee Mimi and I chose apartments across from each other, and on the day we moved in, my parents and brother all came. They celebrated for me, and I was also happy that I could start a new life, completely free from the shadows of my past. However, I didn't expect that during the celebration, two uninvited guests would show up, Xia Yanzhou and Lu Ling. Xia Yanzhou was no longer the upright and honorable man he used to be. After divorcing Fang Nuanyuan, he resigned from his job due to the gossip and pointing fingers from his colleagues. With no income and being disabled, he had no choice but to sell corn cakes with his mother to make a living. Somehow, he heard that I had returned to Beijing, which is why he came to see me with his mother. The door opened, and the previously harmonious atmosphere instantly froze. My brother looked furious. Xia Yanzhou, our family hasn't settled the score with you yet, and you've come knocking on our door yourself. Unexpectedly, Xia Yanzhou fell to his knees with a thud right in front of us. He wore an expression of deep regret. Chu, it was all my fault. I shouldn't have cheated, and I shouldn't have divorced you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Okay, I've realized that you're the only one who truly treats me the best. From now on, you'll be the only one in my heart. Can we start over? Compared to my radiant and glowing appearance, Xia Yanzhou and his mother looked utterly disheveled and downcast. My brother couldn't stand it any longer and stepped forward, delivering a kick that sent Xia Yanzhou sprawling to the ground. Xia Yanzhou, you shameless scoundrel. We never settled the score for you running off with my sister back then. Now that you're disabled, you still have the nerve to come and cause trouble. Do you think the Zhou family is easy to bully? Xia Yanzhou lay on the ground, still muttering apologies under his breath. As if suddenly remembering something, the look in his eyes abruptly changed. He calmly sat up, then gripped his cane and stood. Chu, you've been reborn, haven't you? Chu, I've remembered everything. It was I who wronged you, and everything I've suffered in this life is what I deserve. After saying that, he took Lu Ling by the hand and prepared to leave. Lu Ling refused to go, giving Xia Yanzhou a meaningful look and whispering, the Zhou family is not what it used to be. Now, Zhou's father holds a high official position, and her brother's business is thriving. You should beg Zhou Chu for forgiveness so that we can also live a good life. Mom, do you think we haven't embarrassed ourselves enough already? Xia Yanzhou loudly reprimanded Lu Ling. If it weren't for you saying back then that it's normal for a man to have multiple wives and concubines, I wouldn't have ended up in this situation. Now I've become a laughingstock to everyone. How much longer are you going to keep embarrassing me? Lu Ling was left speechless by Xia Yanzhou's scolding and could only follow behind him, looking back every few steps as they walked away. I know Xia Yanzhou has also been reborn, and he suddenly remembered the events of his previous life. What the hell is Xia Yanzhou talking about? Reborn, my brother muttered under his breath and asked me. I watched Xia Yanzhou's retreating figure and said, maybe I've gone mad. A man without ambition, even if reborn, will still blame others for his mistakes. If he had been disciplined enough, would he have ended up like this today? Let's ignore him and continue celebrating, I said with a smile to my family, raising my glass. Together, let's toast to tomorrow. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.